Okay. We should be live. Here, let me turn my headphones down. Holy shit. Got that shit way too loud. Okay. Got that shit way too loud. Okay. Is the audio fine, guys? Here, just go to shatter. I need to change this to all messages. Okay. We'll probably actually be able to finish this stuff tonight because I don't have to get up early tomorrow for once in this entire fucking week. I don't know the last time I slept in. It was like fucking must have been, I don't even fucking know. I will figure it out, but whatever. I'm just gonna play RE4 until people get in here. I've been doing a hardcore run on New Game Plus. And, oh wait, I need to fucking turn the refresh rate down to like 60 hertz. So my computer doesn't fucking die. Here we go. Hey, thanks for streaming. Needed a relaxing stream to ease my mind. No problem, I guess. I'm just here to do this shit. I've been trying to finish the hardcore run on this that I'm trying to do so I can get the trophy. I've been trying to decide whether I want to like actually get like really invested into this game or just like kind of casually play it, like as invested in as I am in like Doom Eternal. But that's what I mean when I mean like invested. Like obviously I really fucking like it. It's probably my second favorite game this year outside of like Tears of the Kingdom. But yeah, I don't know. You see, Quantum lied about having a daughter. I actually have a daughter. It's my stuffed IKEA shark. Okay. I have a son, actually. It's my, oh shit! Where did you come from? I am about to die. This is throwing me off a lot, because I am not used to playing this shit at 60 FPS. Fuck. Hop off my cock, man. Jesus Christ. Oh, no. Gonna need another one of these fuckers. I'm gonna get through this encounter, and then once I get through it, we'll probably start, I think we'll start with the Synthetic Man videos, because I have been putting those off for so fucking long now, and shit. And then I want to do Ann Wifey's video. I don't know if we'll get to it tonight, but Ann Wifey did a video responding to my fucking thing, and this is awful. I do actually find it really funny though that I have a YouTube nemesis now, finally. Like I've been missing this fucking drama for a long ass time. Jesus Christ. I'm so bad at this shit. I don't ever Goddamn Josh, you were playing on a typewriter. Oh no, it's just my keyboard is hella loud. And I have literally no clue how to make it, like, not come on the fucking thing. The audio or whatever. Is the frame rate bad? What the fuck? Do I have something open that, like, I'm not? I need to get a new CPU. The CPU is actual, like, dog shit. Frame rate looking like Jedi Survivor life in my ass on PC. Yeah, no. It looks better now, but I don't know what the fuck is going on. Like, might be Z would do this with like a bunch of other games too. Like anytime I would try to run a game at like over 100 at like over 60 FPS, like the stream would just like shit itself, and I have no clue why. So I would just have to like limit the stream down to fucking 30 FPS. Fuck. Do you use any mic software along your microphone, or do you just use audio, raw microphone audio for your stream? I just use raw microphone audio. I don't know what else I'm supposed to use. I barely stream as it is though, so I don't really... Oh shit. What the fuck? You know what? I don't care this much. When do you plan on finishing the synthetic man video? Tonight, hopefully. I feel like my dad doesn't fucking come in and... I know it's not the usual style, but would you ever make a series retrospective of any game you would want to review? Oh yeah, I've actually been planning on doing a Tears of the Kingdom thing. Like, I started writing like a script on... I know this shit more. I started writing like a script on what's it called? On Tears of the Kingdom, and it's like I'm planning on making it like a long... That's why your keyboard comes out so loud. Mine's the same way. You need a mic software. Pick up to reduce the amount of background noise that's picked up. Voice mod? Okay, I will check that out for later. But yeah. Why did it make CC cleaner faster than the web browser? Okay. So we are starting with Synthetic Man for right now. And then I really don't want to look at these videos because they're like fucking hours long. They're like, the first one's like an hour long. I just typed in synthetic, my dumbass. That was the worst gaming showcase of all time. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I don't care enough to watch that shit, so we're just looking at his fucking Zelda video. Okay.
actually worse in this game because weapons are weaker by...
What was he saying? Okay.
Usually gives them way more damage than combining two weapons together. So if you hated the durability mechanic, in some ways it's actually worse in this game.
Yeah, again, if you hated the durability mechanic in Tears of the Kingdom and you stopped playing Breath of the Wild for that, like, I don't know. And you were expecting them to fix it in like the direct sequel or whatever. I don't know what to tell you, man.
Because weapons are weaker by default and also break even faster, except when you fuse them with an object, and the object on it often breaks first, extending the durability. It is a pretty interesting...
Wait, what did that say? I didn't read it.
And it often breaks first.
To clarify, the statement of fusing weapon raises durability regardless of the material attached, but a weak material will break before the weapon does. Okay.
Extending the durability. It is a pretty interesting idea. It's just a shame that, much like Breath of the Wild, ultimately it just comes down to creating the weapon with the highest damage and then having like a couple tool weapons, just like the rock that you could fuse the stuff to mine, but also if you had like a fire sword, or if you make a magic staff, which you can now do if you have the base staff and then combine it with a ruby or sapphire.
That's still so fucking cool in this game.
On top of being able to fuse materials to your weapons.
Much respectful, it's even worse since that Synthetic Man has negative charisma. I wonder how Ann Wifey feels about this stream. I don't really care.
You can also now place any material on an arrow and also give it various properties, as you would expect. And there's a few unique interactions with arrows now. If you fuse Keese wings, it'll have the arrow fly much farther. And if you combine an eyeball, it actually turns into a homing arrow. And once again, I have to say, unfortunately, just like the weapons, with arrows, you're often only going to use a few arrows over and over again. Like a bomb arrow is obviously going to be very useful. Or if you're exploring the underground...
There should have been shortcuts for that. I will agree with him right there. I'm assuming that's where he's going with this, but like, yeah, there should have been shortcuts because it's low-key a pain in the ass to like keep taking out the material or whatever, pausing the game and like taking out the material. Like, that is honestly a pain in the ass. But
ground map, which we'll get to later, you're going to be combining...
I wonder how woke Synthetic Man thinks this game is. I've heard it gets like really bad. Like, he talks about the game like grooming kids and shit, which is actually really fucking funny. And then I heard in the next video he defends lollies, which I don't know about that one. I don't want to believe that because I like to think of Synthetic Man as like a reasonable human being, but like just kind of off the rails on the conservative end. But I don't know. If he really did fucking defend lollies, I don't think that's acceptable at all.
These glowing light plants to the arrows because it's fucking pitch black down there.
Although that will make the whole kerfuffle I've had with Anna the last like couple weeks or so really fucking ironic. I saw a clip from Agent Nibbles about how he went on a random tangent about how monkeypox is caused by gay sex. Hell yeah. We're trying to eradicate us gay people are trying to eradicate the human race, and that's why we invented monkeypox. So yeah.
Another slight tweak to the combat is the reverse time ability that replaces the freeze time ability from the previous game. Reversing time lets you reflect thrown projectiles back to enemies that throw them. It's obviously also used for some puzzles in the shrines and things like that. Not too much else to say about it, really. Another change to the combat is the removal of the old champion abilities you got for conquering each of the Divine Beast temples in Breath of the Wild. These abilities have been replaced with the Sage's Vow, where each of the new sages accompanies you on your journey.
That's another like big issue I have with this game. The sage abilities fucking suck. They are awful. They are so boring compared to like what they had in Breath of the Wild with the fucking Rivali's Gale. That shit just like fucking slapped. All the abilities in Breath of the Wild were really cool, honestly. Like, they weren't really anything mind blowing, but like the sage abilities in Tears of the Kingdom are just bad. I'm not even gonna lie right there. The one I do like is what's her name? Minoru, I think her name is. The fifth one that you get towards the end. Um, the Minoru's ability is actually really cool cause it gives you like a fucking mech and you can walk around in that shit. That was awesome. But every other one I just don't care about. Wasn't there a sixth ability or something? Or am I tripping? I don't remember. I haven't played the game since I finished it, which was like probably it was like it was like almost a month ago. So I don't know. But yeah, no, because the one with the arrows was just pointless because you could just put a fucking shock arrow on it and it does like way more damage. The one with the water was like probably the most pointless one. The one with the water that Sidon gives you is the worst one, honest, of the entire game because it's just fucking. Uh, it gives you like a water shield, which is useful, but then it goes away after one hit. So it's like, what the hell is the point of this? And I also don't like the way you activate them too, because it's like really fucking confusing. So you have to you have to go up to them and you press A to activate them. But if you've got like all of them out, you'll accidentally activate the wrong one, and it's just so annoying, especially when you're trying to use them in like the middle of combat. So it's just easier to turn them off, honestly, or like maybe just leave the mech on. That's what I did. Honestly, as someone who doesn't consider Tears of the Kingdom Game of the Year, I think Synthetic Man's critiques are so dumb for the most part. I mean, he's had some valid points, but again, his main point so far against the game was like the weapon durability is back, which like the weapon durability stuff has already been debunked like 100 different times from Breath of the Wild. So I don't know.
Through the temples across the land, and after defeating the boss, they pledge their service to you and give you a magic ring, which summons an avatar and allows them to fight alongside you in combat. They each have some kind of useful ability that you can use roughly every 30 seconds. And yeah, I gotta say, I actually like this change. The champion's abilities were actually too strong in Breath of the Wild. With the Sage avatars, you have somebody who's always useful because they do damage.
I don't think they were
combat.
that strong. I mean, they got used, which like is more than I can say for these. Like honestly, they're just fucking frustrating, and I just rather turn them off, personally. But I don't know.
Maybe not a lot to the later game enemies, but they definitely feel much more balanced. Neither their damage or their ability.
But like, wasn't the completely unbalanced shit from the champion abilities like kind of what made him cool in Breath of the Wild and what made you want to do the dungeons? Personally, I don't know. Again,
sway the flow of combat significantly.
although another thing I really fucking do like about Tears of the Kingdom is that the final boss is so much better in every single way than Breath of the Wild's. Cause the fact that he can fucking flurry rush you is so cool. And then what else? He's actually hard this time. Like if you don't have Sunderlines, you are basically fucked. And yeah. I don't know.
Enough to break the game in any way, or at least they don't.
It is probably the best final boss for a Zelda game I have ever played, honestly.
Give you yet more get out of jail free cards. In fact, I would say the only thing that makes Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild's combat difficult at all is if an enemy can kill you in one hit. Because of the cooking, which I'm not going to talk about because, again, it's exactly the same as Breath of the Wild. I'm sure they tweaked it in some way, but as someone who hasn't played the previous one since it released, I didn't notice any difference. It's basically functionally the same thing. You can cook so many full heals that as long as you can pause in between attacks, you might as well be unkillable. And the champion abilities let you make even more mistakes without consequences.
Yeah, again, it's called fucking preparing for shit. Like, no shit. If you... In fucking Minecraft, if you're trying to fight the Ender Dragon, like, yeah, you can make it a lot harder for yourself if you don't prepare enough. But, like, if you do everything possible, like, yeah, you're gonna be fucking prepared and fight it pretty easily. Or like, what else? Even with the final boss, like again, if you have like all those peeling items, the gloom and shit, if you're down in the depths and you have like a bunch of full restock shit, like that those aren't gonna do anything, especially against the final boss. That's why again I think the final boss is so well designed from how he uses the gloom and then like how he like just straight up takes away your hearts towards the end of the fight. It's so cool. But yeah. Doesn't really feel like his legitimate criticisms were even done in good faith. He just threw him in so people could say he couldn't say he solely attacked it over his political views. Again, I don't even know what the fuck is political about Tears of the Kingdom. I don't know. Like, I thought the story was kind of bad, honestly, because it's just like it's just kind of cheesy personally, and I didn't really like it. But I don't know what the hell is like political about this game. It's a fucking Nintendo game of all things. Nintendo is like the least political company of the entire gaming industry. I don't fucking know.
So the sages feel much more balanced in comparison. Now, unfortunately, the trade-off to having all these new options in combat in terms of fusing and being able to throw any material or attach said material to your arrows for various different effects, as I said before, adds a new problem to the combat that wasn't so significant in Breath of the Wild. That being the fact that now you pause every 5 seconds in combat.
No, that is really annoying.
Pausing the fight so many different times to scroll through 100 different items just to get to the one thing you want. And yes, you can sort the item list. It still takes too long unless you know exactly what you want and it's something you've used a bunch of times before. This is mostly a problem for arrows because sometimes you don't even really know what you want to shoot. If you just want raw damage, you need to find a material that you either know for a fact you don't need to upgrade items. Yeah, that's a completely different fucking problem. Now that you can shoot and throw materials and there's a good reason to do so, you might actually accidentally get rid of an item you need to upgrade your armor. And upgrading armor seems more important than ever. This is definitely more difficult than Breath of the Wild, and we'll get into that way later in the temple section. But the end game really requires you to be prepared and to have fused together some really powerful items, as the silver variants of enemies have way more health and, as you would expect, also do proportionally more damage. So yeah, combining all of these
Nintendo
aspects...
Switch and PS5 over Xbox and PC? I mean, Nintendo Switch and PS5 over Xbox, obviously. I mean, what the fuck is Xbox put out? Like, the PC, I mean, you can literally fucking pirate all your fucking games on PC. So, I don't know how Switch is better than PC, but whatever.
Together, I'd say combat's just a side grade. The only real upgrade is that the enemy variety has been significantly increased, which I really appreciate because that was one of my biggest problems with Breath of the Wild. The enemy roster has been more than doubled, and it seems like pretty much every enemy that was in the original was brought back. But I guess that's one of the few benefits of it being 6 years since
I do kind of wish there were Guardians back in this game. That's like one of my main problems with... That's another one of my main criticisms of this game. The Guardians were like such a cool enemy design from Breath of the Wild, and they just didn't have them in this game at all. And I don't know. It was
the Wild's release is that fighting the same enemies doesn't feel as repetitive. But again, this is where the laziness starts to sink in. It's all the same exact attack animations and combos. And
why do you need different attack animations? The fuck? It's the same Link. Like, they use the same attack animations in fucking Majora's Mask. Why is it a problem here?
It's like that gives this game...
Or like, didn't they use the same attack animations in God of War Ragnarok too? And Forbidden West? Like, what the hell?
Huge sense of deja vu. I never replayed Breath of the Wild. Personally, I don't think it has much replayability. Generally, any game that is really long is going to have less replayability by default. But in spite of that, I constantly had this sense of deja vu, which, trust me, I'll be bringing up again later. And some people will say, well, what about Elden Ring, right? It reused so many animations from Dark Souls 3. And look, I was not okay with that back then either, but in Elden Ring's defense, it did add some things, or I should really say re-add some things that were in Dark Souls 2, like power stancing. There were so many different weapon arts that were completely unique ideas and stuff. For
And Tears of the Kingdom has a shit ton of new stuff too. What the fuck?
the Kingdom, I played the combat exactly how I played Breath of the Wild. I didn't really do anything different. So yeah.
I mean, I've been playing fucking Elden Ring pretty similar to how I play, how I tried playing Dark Souls 3. I don't know. Maybe I'm like fucking stupid. Because again, I'm not really that big of a Soulsborne player. But I never really noticed a huge difference in Elden Ring's combat compared to like compared to what I played in Dark Souls 3. Personally, I don't. Again, it's a direct sequel. Like what the fuck do you want them to do?
Ultimately, combat's fine, I guess. So
The one game I think you will be playing a lot more different compared to like its sequel, in its sequel compared to its predecessor, is Doom Eternal. I'd say because it's like they made the what's it called? They made the ammo lower, so you're switching weapons a lot more. But like, I don't really think that's required.
of course, I have to downgrade it on principle. This is just like a Ubisoft game.
And no, you played again. This is okay. Zelda has never been about combat. That's one thing. So it's like the combat is gonna be the combat has been really similar in all of the Zelda games before. Like Ocarina of Time plays really similar to Wind Waker to me at least, and same with Twilight Princess. They kind of changed it a lot with Skyward Sword because you have to use the motion controls, but not that much to the point where it's like you play it completely differently. And then Breath of the Wild, they changed it up more with the flurry rushes and stuff, but that's really all it's been. So it's like, what the fuck?
Man, you're playing the same thing you already played. You played Breath of the Wild, you played this, right? And that'll be a phrase I repeat in this review, no doubt. So moving on now to the open world itself. This is something that, again, I thought I would talk about at length because even though they reuse the same map, they did move a lot of things around. There's completely new side quests. The Great Fairies are in different locations. There's now 2 additional maps, though calling the Sky map its own map is a little disingenuous. It's not that much, but it's enough to keep things interesting, for sure. And the Underground map is a giant fucking empty wasteland, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But before I get to the overworld or any of that shit, I want to talk about the tutorial. This has got to be the worst tutorial in Zelda history. It's to the point where streamers have actually dropped this game just because it's so unbelievably boring. I understand the purpose of it. It's to teach you some basic physics fundamentals about the new Ultra Hand.
I never really found the tutorial boring. I honestly found Breath of the Wild's tutorial way more boring than Tears of the Kingdom. Because it felt stupid as shit how you couldn't, like, jump off the Great Plateau or whatever. I don't know.
Ability which lets you fuse a very large variety of objects together, but it's 3 fucking hours long.
This did not take me 3 hours. What the fuck? It took me like 2 hours at most. Okay, whatever.
That's worse than God of War Ragnarok. And while it is all gameplay, unlike God of War Ragnarok, which had like 10 hours of cutscenes throughout the game or something like that, it's very dull and slow-paced gameplay. Tears of the Kingdom pulls a Metroid and Link loses his abilities in quite possibly the dumbest way I've seen yet, which shouldn't be too surprising, but you don't even start with your fucking paraglider either for any of this tutorial. So I think the idea was okay, that using just the Ultra Hand and Fusion, you need to navigate your way around these floating islands, but it just goes on for way too long, dude. Even if you skip all the optional content, it's probably going to take you 2 hours to do it the first time, just to be able to go out into the open world. I just think the Great Plateau was far more effective and interesting, and still left plenty for you to discover in the open world. Nintendo made Tears of the Kingdom assuming that not one player would have played Breath of the Wild. And I understand people are probably going to argue with me about this, and that's fine. But I think if you make a sequel, you should assume people played the previous game. That doesn't mean there should be no tutorials. It just means the tutorial should probably be optional. The only mandatory things to teach you should be the new stuff, right? And even with the Ultra Hand, too much time is spent teaching you how it works. That should be the function of the various shrines. Because, yeah, we got shrines back again. They function exactly the same. In fact, the progression system in this game is 1-to-1 with Breath of the Wild. As in, you do 4 shrines to get an extra heart container or a tiny bit of your stamina boosted. And you have to find great fairies to upgrade your armor. And obviously, loot works the exact same.
Yeah, this is how it's been for literally every Zelda game before. Why would they change that here? Like, from what I remember, the Great Fairies would, like, upgrade your armor in the older Zelda games, right? I don't know, it's been a really long time since I played Ocarina of Time, but I know there were Great Fairies in that, and, like, they would help you with shit. I genuinely don't... I need to look this shit up now, because... What did Great Fairies... It would teach you a spell, ability, and... Okay, no, it wasn't the exact same thing. But, like, again, this is a direct sequel, and I'm pretty sure they did the same thing in Majora's Mask when, like, they did their same thing in Majora's Mask, in Ocarina of Time, or whatever. So, took me 3 hours because I explored every corner of the tutorial. Both the beauty of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is that you can leave the tutorial... Yeah, exactly! Like, you can get off this shit really fucking quick if you want to. But you don't have to, and that's the whole thing with Breath of the Wild. So, I'm assuming they did the same thing in Majora's Mask, but they would give him powerful. Yeah, so it's the same thing. What the fuck?
Same way as well, where you find loot in chests or enemies are using them, which is yet another element that makes this game feel too similar to the last one. And when you finally get to the open world, oh, what do you know? It's the same fucking map. All of the towns are in the same place. The topography of the map is exactly the same, outside of there being some holes in the ground and some floating islands in the sky. And yes, I know you're thinking of the underground map, just hold on, we'll get to that last, because it's the worst part, believe it or not. And so, once you're finally unleashed into the open world, what is your grand task? Oh, well, it's pretty much exactly the same as Breath of the Wild. You go around to the major civilizations of Hyrule's various species, and you solve whatever weird climate problem they're having.
That's what they do in every single fucking Zelda game. What the hell? They have you going all over the map, going, like, helping out with people and shit. What? Oh,
it literally is the same fucking thing. Well, I guess that's not completely accurate, as it turns out the Gorons have been eating some evil magic rocks that turn them into brain-dead, lazy zombies. So actually that was kind of funny and at least a little bit creative. I'll give Nintendo some credit on that one. But to immediately take that credit away, to survive Death Mountain, you just have to do the exact same thing you did in Breath of the Wild. Buy the fire armor or make some fireproof elixirs.
Okay. Well, where is the problem here? Josh is using a typewriter in the 50s to write yeah, no.
Instead of the climate disasters being caused by the corrupted divine beasts, they're caused by monsters that Ganondorf created that just so happen to have the power to do this, I guess. This is Breath of the Wild 1.5. It just is, guys. And I don't want to talk about the story in detail because it's not really interesting. This might actually be the worst story in Zelda yet as well.
I will agree with him on that,
I'm sure
honestly.
People will bring up one of the 2D games or maybe like Spirit Tracks or something. I don't really care. I mean,
the story
like
in
the
this is really
high-budget
bad.
3D ones. This is probably the worst story. It doesn't even feel like a sequel. 80% of the characters have no idea who the hell Link is, despite the fact it's only been like 5 years. Yeah, okay, all of the major players from Breath of the Wild remember Link and know he saved the world.
What?
But there's no...
Nobody remembers Link? Where are you going to where nobody remembers Link? Because I don't think you're talking about... I don't think we played the same game, honest to fucking God.
Of Calamity
But
Ganon's
whatever.
damage. The divine beasts are gone. I don't even think they're referenced in dialogue.
Yeah, no,
This
that
is a
fucking
bit
stupid.
of a spoiler, so feel free to skip if you, for some reason, care about the story of this game. Zelda goes back in time to when Hyrule was founded, essentially, or a little bit after that. Meets the first king and queen of Hyrule, which the king was a fucking goat man, and the queen was a, we'll say, dark elf. So despite the fact that the Gerudo are clearly supposed to be like the Middle Eastern and
What the fuck were people expecting from Tears of the Kingdom? The game was literally called Breath of the Wild 2 for the first couple of years. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Grillix. It is so fucking stupid. Cause it's like...
inspired race, I guess you could say, but they might even be a different species.
Were you expecting them to flip the entire game? Even Majora's Mask didn't flip the entire game on its head. Like, people act like it did, but it really didn't. It's still the same, like, song and dance from Ocarina of Time, where you go to the different dungeons around. Except in Majora's Mask, there's less dungeons than on Ocarina of Time. And then they add the whole timer aspect to it. Which, like, honestly, that can be frustrating for some people. So... I don't know.
Than Hylians, I'm not sure. They could be like Asari and just take genetic material from Hylians to make more Gerudo, right? But no, now there's actually a lot of Hylians that are various shades of brown throughout the world. And
there have been brown Hylians in Breath of the Wild. What the fuck? I don't even fucking remember, because I don't... There are too many fucking Zelda races for me to... But no, there were brown Hylians in Breath of the Wild. What the fuck?
One of the founders of Hyrule set the stage for the entire series, created a wonderful Wakanda-esque utopia, is one of these brown Hylians. Almost literally, we was Kangs and shit. So
what? What the fuck is he on?
For Skyward Sword being the...
Is he trying to call the game woke? Cause fucking... What's your name? Sonia. Because fucking Sonia's what? What?
Beginning of the series. And to dip into the schizo paint a little bit, the king being a goat man, who are the Zonai people who came from the heavens, is borderline satanic imagery.
Oh my god. It's a fucking goat! It's a goat! What is this? Why did I decide to watch this?
If this is intentional or not, but Japan used to be infamous for putting weird Christian symbolism in anime and occasionally video games, so this could be an extension of that, or again, if you want to take the schizo angle, this is a result of a certain cult organization full of quote-unquote elites that are subtly inserting their propaganda into video games.
What the fuck? It's a goat. What? So if there's a white person in fucking Last of Us 2, I guess it's trying to insert Klansman mentality because they're trying to, because white people were in the KKK. What the fuck? What? Zelda has always had like different races be of different animals and shit. What? Oh my god.
There's all sorts of little nuggets of wokeness, like Paya now having a giant brown boyfriend who looks like
She has a brown boyfriend. What the fuck is this? She has a giant brown boyfriend. I'm not even gonna fucking debunk that at that point. If you don't understand how that's stupid, I think that's your own fucking problem.
a Giga Chad in comparison to Link, despite the fact she was thirsting for his dick in the last one. Not to mention the quote-unquote subtle homosexual imagery from Breath of the Wild has been expanded even further in this one. And I already know people are going to say I'm reading into it and no kid's going to see this shit. But that's exactly how you desensitize people and how you groom them, right? You expose them to things. The vow that each of the new sages takes to Link looks like they're proposing to him.
What? a propose. What the fuck?
Gonna
This
see
is
this
the most
shit, but that's
schizo shit I have ever
exactly
seen.
desensitize people and how you
Holy shit, this is bad. I wish I could do a video on this, honestly, but I'm not spending like another 20 hours of my time fucking looking at Synthetic Man's dumbass thing where he tries to say they're fucking grooming Link. Oh my god.
groom them.
And even still, even if they were like fucking proposing to people, who the fuck cares? Oh no, we're showing that gay people exist in a kids game? Wow, that's terrible. How fucking terrible.
Right, you expose them to things. The vow that each of the new sages takes to Link.
Like people in fucking 5th grade with me, they knew people, they knew about gay people and they would make jokes about them. Knowing about gay people doesn't fucking turn you gay. What the hell? What the hell is this shit?
Looks like they're proposing to him. And Sidon, the giant shark guy, people already made a bunch of gay lewd images between him and Link when Breath of the Wild came out.
Yeah, because it's fucking funny.
Well, now, him quite literally putting a ring on his finger. And man, their relationship is too fucking weird, dude. I don't care that they literally give him a wife. In the story, I'm not convinced. Link was already a cross-dresser before this game. Not to mention, it actually...
Yeah, it was played off as a joke. What? They made the whole trans guy in Breath of the Wild like a joke. People actually got like pretty pissed off about that, which honestly I don't care. It's again, it's a fucking game. You were reading too much into this if you're trying to find political shit.
Child, a bird child, is one of the other sages. Jesus, he's hand-mogged by everyone. He's hand-mogged by a child. Link was destined to be a bottom. It's over.
What the fuck?
And Riju's a Gerudo, and if you've seen any of their Rule 34, you know they're usually sporting a little something extra. Come. That's why I'm going doing your pussy tonight, Link. Though obviously that's not canon, but you get the point, man. Every character that vows to him might as well be male, figuratively. Now, honestly, I don't actually believe that, but it is weird enough to be eyebrow raising. Certainly worth making fun
Is he
of,
trying to say that Riju is trans or some shit? I'm not even gonna fucking ask.
And perhaps more importantly than this weird schizo tangent is the fact that time travel completely ruins the story of Breath of the Wild. Because if Zelda traveled back in time, however many years, she could have just told the Hylians never to build the Divine Beast because Ganon would corrupt them and end up killing everybody. And then Breath of the Wild would never happen. Again, it doesn't feel like a sequel at all because Breath of the Wild might as well be ignored for the sake of this game's story. Another reason why this story sucks is because it has the tendency to re-explain things you already know or
that
easily
is also really annoying. I will agree with them on that. They keep showing the fucking same thing over and they keep showing the same fucking thing over and over again. But they did also kind of do that in Breath of the Wild though, with like with the Divine Beasts. Like you free them, they give you your power or whatever, and then they take their Divine Beast out onto like a hill or some shit to point it at the tower. So I don't really know how that's that much of a problem if you were fine with it in Breath of the Wild.
Not even counting the spoiler about Zelda, there's various plot details that are shown to you over and over again. Every time that you defeat a boss in one of the temples, you're given the same exact flashback with Ganondorf. And even the various tiers that give you the memories across the map show very similar scenes. Even if they're different parts of the same scene, often you'll view the actual spoiler part before you view the setup, and then the setup scene is pointless.
Yeah, no, that is
because the
annoying.
arrangement of scenes across the map seems almost completely random. There's a chance that you could view the biggest spoiler in the game as the very first tier. I believe it's just directly north of the starting point of the map.
Not directly north.
First tier, I believe it's just directly north of the starting.
If you go to If you go towards the Lost Woods, the Great Mountain, or Death Mountain first, you'll probably see it. Which one is he talking about? I'm trying to figure out which one he's talking about now, because... So, direct, it's the Master Sword one? Which one is the Master... It's Zelda getting the Master Sword, right? So... You know, okay, I'll take his word for it. Fuck it.
Big point of the map. But despite this, the story treats every player as if they didn't do any optional content. I remember getting to the end of the Spirit Temple and having Minoru explain something that was already told me at least 3 fucking times, and then I believe Pora repeats it again immediately afterward. Just because it's a game for children doesn't mean children are stupid. Though who knows, maybe kids really are getting dumber, but I feel like when I was a child, I didn't have to have things constantly explained to me over and over again to be able to complete a game or understand the story. Whatever, anyway, this was a huge tangent. We should probably actually get to the open world now. As I've already stated, it's basically the same as Breath of the Wild. And the reason I actually really enjoyed Breath of the Wild's open world and its exploration was the sense of discovery and the difficulty of just traversing the landscape. Now, it wasn't something overly complex, and it wasn't necessarily the focus of the game, which is what I hear Death Stranding is like, and no, I haven't played Death Stranding yet. I'll get around to it eventually, I guess. But it was never really that complex. It was just enough difficulty to make things interesting, like not having enough stamina to climb a mountain, or that it suddenly starts raining and you slip off of any surface. Just the ability to climb almost any surface was pretty unique. And even though the map does feel kind of...
Synthetic Man is talking so much about R34, he makes me think he looks for it. Probably. I would not put it past this man.
kind of empty, because a lot of the locations aren't really locations. Who cares about a random treasure chest in a bandit camp that gives you random loot that is a sword that's...
This just got me thinking. It seems like he's been wearing that same Superman shirt in like all of the clips. And these were all clips from like different streams on different days. So that has to tell me he didn't change his fucking shirt over the course of like several days.
Gonna break in 20 swings
God.
anyway. I never liked that shit. And on that same line, getting fucking Korok seeds when there's like 1,000 of them. They're everywhere. And you really don't need to upgrade your weapon slots more than 3 or 4 times for the entire game. And all that stuff is back. Again, even though everything's been moved around, conceptually it's exactly the same. So really the only worthwhile loot in the world is completing the shrines, obviously, and finding armor pieces. Now there's various treasure hunts to find specialty armor throughout the world.
Yeah, exactly. Why are you acting like you have to do all this shit? It's there so like you can actually, if it's there so if you see something interesting you can go find it and fuck around with it.
I think there was probably a side quest or 2 like that in Breath of the Wild. I haven't played in 6 years, like I said. But it feels like a bigger focus in this one. There's a lot more armor pieces to find in various caves or in the underground map. There's also a new resource to upgrade, battery power, which is how you power the Zonaite machines, which I might as well now talk about. This is another thing I didn't really actually want to talk about that much once I messed around with it. I was thinking, well, I'll play some of Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts because people have been comparing the building system to that. But honestly, I got bored of Nuts and Bolts within 4 hours, so I couldn't even really test out the building to any significant degree. That game is just not that good. Just know that this is not the video if you want to see people break down the crazy physics goofiness, because guess what? Dominant strategy is king. I've said this before, I think, in a video. If I haven't, well, I'll explain it for you. Conceptually, dominant strategy is just using the most efficient or effective strategy over and over again to complete a challenge in a game, right? I think a good example of this would be any good starting weapon from an FPS or third-person shooter, like the Halo 1 Magnum, or from Dead Space, the Plasma Cutter. The Plasma Cutter is a great example because it isn't objectively the best gun in the game for every situation, but it is a jack of all trades, or maybe more accurately, a king of all trades. It doesn't do the most damage, it's not the most effective at crowd control, but it is really good in almost every situation, right? So players will often focus all of their upgrades into the plasma cutter, making it objectively the best weapon you could be using until you max out its upgrades and then start upgrading another weapon. Now, you might be wondering what the point of this tangent is. Well, to explain that, first let me explain once again why I liked Breath of the Wild a lot. Like I said, there was a certain level of difficulty to traversing the landscape. Well, unfortunately, because of the Zonai machinery, that has been completely taken out of the equation in one very simple way, and I have to credit someone in my live stream chat for telling me about this. But you can effectively nullify all of the challenge of verticality with a steering wheel and 2 fans. Yeah, that's all it takes to create a flying Segway, which, due to how simplistic the device is, it doesn't take very much Zonai energy to power, and it's light enough to be able to fly straight up just fast enough to get wherever you want, only using a few Zonai charges.
So
yeah, and
don't fucking do that.
Believe it or not.
What? So don't fucking, if you don't want to be like have all the puzzles like spoiled for you and shit, and like actually want to figure it out the right way, don't make the Segway. That's like telling people not to use cheat codes and shit. I mean, that's like docking points for using cheat codes. I mean, for a game having cheat codes. Like, oh yeah, GTA 5 is a shit game because it has no challenge, because if I want to, I can just like get all these fucking guns and then I'll be fine. Like, no shit.
Not. I was doing it wrong the entire time. You don't want to make a hover Segway, you want to make a hover bike. Instead of on the sides, placing the 2 fans, one in the front and the back, angled 45 degrees forward, not only propels you up and forward, but using the steering wheel, you can somehow turn just fine. Which fixes the one major flaw of the Segway being lack of forward propulsion, so now you can effectively move in any direction. And if you attach a giant Bright Bloom seed to it, then you've got a light for the chasm. This destroys the majority of any difficulty exploring the map. The only restriction is based on the weather, and it's not exactly difficult to get heat or cold resistant armor, or to just craft.
Plus I think it's nice they made the DLC stuff from the first game free in this game. This video makes me feel the same for finding the content in Tears of the Kingdom uninteresting and too much. I don't know.
Have food that gives you resistance to the elements. So within a few hours of the game, you can easily trivialize any difficulty from climbing. And again, I feel like people are gonna make excuses for this, saying, well, it's optional, you don't have to do it. But if it makes everything easier, why wouldn't you do it? And it's so easy and it's so cheap to make. Because here's the thing, you might be thinking, well, what if you don't have any steering wheels or any fans? Well, in the underground, you find one of your other abilities, which allows you to save any build you've ever made, and will make that build with either nearby materials or Zonaite. And given that the flying Segway only takes 3 parts, it only costs 9 Zonaite to make. That's not a lot if you explore the underground map to any degree. And here's the thing, you can spawn this in the dungeons too. A big part of getting to those dungeons is navigating through platforming challenges to ascend super high into the sky, right? And that's a really cool idea. The problem is, if you ever struggle at any moment, you could...
Some people like a challenge, like, has he never heard of Pokemon Nuzlocke? I haven't heard of that either, so I don't know.
Just make your flying Segway, and boom, you've skipped half the fucking level. I'm sorry for all of you disappointed who wanted to see Synthetic Man do the puzzle right. But no, you're gonna see Synthetic Man do the puzzle wrong. Because I can. I don't have to. I have the ultimate vehicle. You don't need any other vehicles. This is dominant strategy. I'm literally going to talk about this in the video. This is a problem because it fundamentally removes one of the unique elements of Breath of the Wild, which was the actual exploration.
Yeah, and if you want to actually explore, you can do that. Like, what the fuck? So it doesn't make you do its shit? Okay. Where is the problem here?
The landscape itself was part of the difficulty in exploring the world, and it didn't ever really feel annoying. In fact, I think it was a great thing because it helped the world feel unique. But Tears of the Kingdom doesn't have any new challenges. In fact, it has less challenges because of the Zone 9 machinery, and the weather works exactly the same. Get the fireproof armor for Death Mountain, get heat-resistant clothes for Gerudo Desert.
How would they
and
even change
cold-resistant
the
clothes
weather?
for any of the various mountains around the map? So this is actually one of the few elements that this sequel does worse than the first game, and all because they wanted to add some stupid Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts style building crap. Now, as for the shrines themselves, I actually love the building mechanic for the shrines. It's like the complete opposite. One major problem I had with Breath of the Wild was not the fact that you had to do so many shrines, it was that a lot of the shrines were not really engaging. Partially because there was a lot of combat ones where you literally just had to fight one machine that was really strong, or maybe a few machines. Now the only combat ones in Tears of the Kingdom are the tutorial ones to teach you the mechanics, which I'm completely fine with, and ones where they strip away all of your gear and healing items and then give you set equipment, and you have to defeat the enemies using whatever tools they have in the arenas. And those are actually pretty good too. So the combat ones have definitely been fixed. But the vast majority of them are physics puzzles, and I feel like the physics puzzles combined with gluing objects together to making various machinery is actually really fun. Even though, just like God of War Ragnarok, I kind of had my retard moments where I overthought something very simple, or I just wasn't thinking at all because my brain melts into Swiss cheese. I don't know why, it's just a personal problem that I have. Sometimes I would come up with a very unconventional solution to a problem that turned out really well. I wonder if I can just grab a rocket from that first area. What the fuck? I just skipped the okay, well, I'll take it. That works for me. And the fact that you can create these out-of-the-box solutions for puzzles is really cool. And even though I'm aware of the reality that most of the people playing Nintendo games now are adults, which is kind of sad in a way, not necessarily for the man-children Redditors, I actually don't have a problem with adults playing kids games. I have a problem that kids are playing fucking Fortnite or Call of Duty instead of kids games. I think that's a bigger problem. But for the kids who are actually playing this, I actually think that could be useful in real life, or at least could help foster intelligence and creative out-of-the-box thinking.
I'm sorry,
Apparently, I've become much more closed-minded over time, just getting older, given I would overlook very simple solutions to problems. I mean, in reality, these puzzles are made for kids. They should be easy to solve. But if you come up with an alternative solution, I'm glad that that's rewarded. I think that's a good idea because I think that's really the appeal of physics-based puzzles. Now, as for the sky portion of the map, I actually like these floating islands. It seems like most of them are relatively important to do. And using the new and improved Ubisoft towers that actually launch you like 1,000 feet into the air.
The new towers are really fucking cool.
Once you have enough stamina, or you can build a contraption to fly you between the platforms. As you could probably guess, you can find shrines up here and also treasure maps that lead to armor. And you can also find an item that upgrades each of your sage vows, making them do more damage in combat, which they definitely need because they're a little bit too weak against endgame enemies. So the sky map is a win in my book. Good addition, there's not too much of it. The islands that are there feel relatively important, so it was good enough for me. I wouldn't really change anything. Now, as for the underground map, as I've already said before, it fucking sucks. It's an empty wasteland. There's only a few reasons to even come down there outside of a couple mandatory story moments. The first of which to find Zonaite to fuel your machines and to increase your maximum battery capacity. Enemies drop them, and you can also mine them from various sources. The second purpose being to find the different mines where the Yiga clan is stationed at. This is where I found the ability to save the various machines you made and recreate them. So that was incredibly useful for obvious reasons. And speaking of the Yiga, you also fight Master Koga in multiple different locations in special boss fights where he's using some kind of machine he's built. And those are some of the most fun boss battles in the game, so I do have to give Nintendo some credit on that one. And on top of all of this, there's also boss rematches from each of the dungeons, which upon defeat you get some treasure, obviously, and you can also fuse a piece of the boss to one of your weapons. And the third reason would be to find special loot, either by finding special treasure maps in the sky or restoring these special statues that you can trade Poe souls in exchange for various rare items you can get. And I don't know, there's some other collectibles. I don't really remember everything off the top of my head, and I don't really care. So to sum up why this place sucks, it is way too large. It pretty much is just a reflection of the open world map if you took out 95% of the interesting locations and instead replaced it with a repeating rock texture and the glowing gloom, which reduces your maximum health temporarily until you get near some of these light plants that you have to light everywhere. And it all looks the same. There's no notable landmarks whatsoever. Even the few mines or the...
Not really. Like, again, there's the huge, like, fucking water areas and shit. And, from... You know what? Yeah, I'll give him that, I guess. I don't fucking care.
These Yiga bases where you take them out and find schematics to build some Zonai devices. It doesn't matter. It all looks the same. It's all fucking terrible outside of the Fire Temple and the Spirit Temple.
But again, I don't really think you're supposed to be, like, looking in the depths for that long. Like, the depths are an obvious, like... I don't know.
And I guess under Hyrule Castle, if you want to count that. I'm really not exaggerating when I say 90% of it feels completely pointless, like fluff. There's really just no purpose to this fucking place. It feels half thought out. It's funny that one of the biggest praises I've heard of this game over Breath of the Wild is that it fixes a lot of the problems in terms of worthwhile content and plugs up some of the emptiness of the open world map. But then you have the underground map, which is the exact fucking opposite. It's way more empty than Breath of the Wild ever was, which I feel like cancels out the fact that the overworld map is better. It pretty much defines everything I hate about certain types of open world games, where there's just nothing here. There's no worthwhile quests whatsoever. The enemies are often a waste of time to fight. And actually, it's worse than a waste of time. It's annoying, too, because every time they hit you, they reduce your maximum health, just like the Gloom. It's just busy work in between notable locations.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Now we get to the final part of the open world, the temple. No, actually, it's worse than quest whatsoever. The enemies are often a waste of time to fight. And actually, it's worse.
I've not been keeping up with this community for like the last year now. What the fuck happened with Quantum? He's kind of fucking crazy. You know?
Than a waste of time. It's annoying too because every time they hit you, they reduce your maximum health, just like the Gloom. It's just busy work in between notable locations.
Yeah, but aren't there like way better shit down in the depths too? That's like another reason to go down there too, because I don't fucking know.
Now we get to the final part of the open world, the temples. Now, if you were one of the people who complained about the divine beasts in Breath of the Wild, unfortunately, you're probably not going to like these temples that much either. I definitely think they're better than the ones in Breath of the Wild. There's more variety between them in how you get to them and the style of puzzles in each one. But they're still really not that great. Definitely not all that memorable because the design of them is very similar to the shrines in that you can approach them in different ways and have unconventional solutions, including using the Segway to skip a lot of them. I started off by doing the water temple despite the fact it was clearly supposed to be the third one in terms of difficulty, and I definitely paid for that as the enemies there could kill me in one hit. But what was more interesting about this whole sequence was actually getting to the temple. The fact that you had to solve a riddle to figure out how to get to these sky islands, and then it's a platforming challenge, which I ended up ignoring with the segue, but still, the idea of swimming up a bunch of waterfalls to get to the top was pretty cool. Then the temple itself was a series of mini puzzles, and then you fight the Mukto Rock, which was a surprisingly easy boss given how difficult the normal enemies were in the area. I beat him in one try, despite the fact I died probably 5 times on my way to him. Then the next temple I did...
I don't really think the bosses in the Zelda games have ever been hard either. Like... I remember there was one in Ocarina of Time that I really fucking struggled with, which that was the bongo guy who he would fucking he would like grab you and he'd one shot you, and it was the most annoying shit ever. But like I don't really think any bosses outside of the final boss have been like of a Zelda game have been like insanely difficult, especially with like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Like I guess you could say if you weren't prepared enough for Thunderblight Ganon or whatever, there would be an issue, but other than that, I don't really think so.
It was the Wind Temple, which is the one the game intends for you to do first. In fact, it even tells you to go there first. And as expected, it was much easier and much shorter in general. Just getting there involved climbing up a mountain, finding the bird dude from the last game's son, and you and Bird Boy team up and go through another platforming challenge in the sky, this one being a lot more fun. And there's an airship stuck in a tornado, which once again you solve some simple puzzles and fight a cartoonishly easy boss. And their gimmick bosses too, which I guess isn't too surprising. This is Zelda. They basically invented gimmick bosses. But for the Air Temple boss, you just glide below him, then shoot his belly in 3 different spots. As for the Water Temple one, you just have to use Sidon's water ability to hit.
I'd still say that boss, the Wind Temple one, is still better than like anything Breath of the Wild had, because it isn't just like hit it till it dies. Like that was the main thing I had an issue with in Breath of the Wild. The bosses were so shit. Like,
and then you get to bash the shit out of him, and you just repeat that until he's dead. Fairly simple attacks, not hard to avoid by any stretch. Now, Death Mountain was actually a little bit different. There wasn't actually any platforming challenge unless you count climbing to the top of Death Mountain. Instead, you fought a mini-boss, 3-headed magma dragon thing, which was cool, but it was over in like a minute. And then the temple itself is inside of the abyss instead of the sky, and I guess as another mini platforming challenge, you have to make your way to the temple. And then the temple itself could also technically be considered a platforming challenge, I guess, if you decide to not even engage with the mine carts. Against my better judgment, I decided to use some restraint and didn't...
I know he got arrested. I mean, the title, he lied about his daughter. So I was reading some of the comments on the video, and a lot of people were saying that, like, he didn't actually have a daughter. So I was planning to look into that on the stream, actually. So I don't even fucking know. So
use my magical flying Segway, but I did just straight up climb up a few of the walls instead to get to the various gongs, and then the boss is a rock version of Goma, which is incredibly easy to kill. I was over-equipped a bit, to be fair. Now, originally, this is where I would have ended my playthrough of this game for the sake of the review, but I have to repeat myself once again due to bad time management. The review was not ready last week, so instead, I decided why not just finish the game at this point. Well, in comes an 11-hour straight stream, as the game turned out to be much longer than I had anticipated. The Gerudo Desert section of the game was probably the least interesting of the 4, with the weather gimmick this time being a massive sandstorm, which blocks your vision unless you climb above it, and it also blocks out your map. Which sounds like it might be an interesting challenge, but in reality it's actually pretty easy to climb above the sandstorm. And so you make your way to Gerudo Town. Thankfully this time you don't have to cross-dress to get in, and you end up having to help Riju hone her lightning powers. Then you set up a defense against the army of Gibdos.
This is so fucking
like
boring.
Guys that you have to hit with elemental damage before you can deal physical damage. And then after that, you head off to the temple, which is just like all the other temples where you do a series of not so difficult puzzles, and then you fight the Gibdo Queen boss. Now, the Gibdo Queen actually is one of the more engaging boss battles in the game, with the gimmick not completely paralyzing the boss. Thank goodness, it's actually a challenge. I was slightly annoyed, admittedly, just because they also throw 20 enemies at you about halfway through the fight, which absolutely destroys the frame rate, which makes the game very frustrating to play. But unlike the other temple bosses, you actually had multiple ways to approach this one. You could hit her with lightning or fire, or you could reflect the light beams at her to make her vulnerable. My only complaint is she had one straight up fucking busted
Why are you
attack
eating the
with a
fucking
hitbox
chuck? Oh my god, whatever.
that covered 180 degrees in front of her, which is just absolutely ridiculous. It's one of like 3 total attacks that she has, so she spams it over and over again. So once you've gathered the 4 sages, you think, okay, it's time to fight Ganondorf and end the game. Well, the game fakes you out. If you viewed all the memories at this point, you know that Ganondorf can make a fake Zelda, and that's exactly what happens. You end up having to fight a bunch of Phantom Ganons, which was a cool fight. But then you have to find the 5th sage, which turns out to be Raru's sister. So for the furries in the audience, they get their demonic goat waifu, and her spirit still exists thousands of years later, and you form a metallic body for her in the spirit temple, which was kind of cool. Basically, the spirit temple's gimmick was a series of mini shrines where you just have to deliver her body parts, and then you get a mech buddy, which was a cool idea, except that it kind of sucks. And then the boss is just a corrupted, slightly bigger machine body. And now you're finally ready for the final boss. And for those of you who saw the stream, you know exactly what happened next. I had been streaming for like 10 hours straight at this point. It was like 4 in the morning. I was dead tired, and I had wasted all of my good resources, all my cooking, most of my good weapons, because I thought the game would be over by now. And I ended up failing at 5 a.m. because I completely ran out of healing items. So I played for 3 hours off stream to prepare, and it turns out I over-prepared. I had way more healing than I ever needed. I beat Ganondorf in 1 try, but I'm not going to use this as a criticism against the boss, because I definitely think it was a better final boss than Breath of the Wild's. Calamity Ganon was a pushover after you'd done the 4 temples. At least this Ganondorf gives you a little bit of a challenge. I mean, it's certainly no Souls game, but the battle is long enough to wear through a lot of your resources, especially if you didn't know to cook a bunch of Sundelions beforehand, as all of his attacks do gloom damage, and a few of his attacks even take away a heart container for the rest of the fight. And once again, here's spoilers if you want to skip to the conclusion, because I'm pretty much just going to be talking spoilers for the rest of the video. Ganondorf swallows his magical tear stone that gave him all of this immense power, and it turns him into a massive dragon just like Zelda. Yes, Zelda's a fucking dragon in this game. It's really stupid and just adds yet another plot hole to the story, because Zelda doesn't time travel back to the present. No, dragons are immortal, which means that during Breath of the Wild, there would have been 2 Zeldas, with the light dragon, I guess, just fucking off, because obviously Nintendo didn't think of the story ahead of time, which I guess shouldn't be surprising. Nobody plays Zelda for the story, but this one, I gotta say it again, it's a dumb story. So while you're riding on Dragon Zelda, you have to fight Dragon Ganondorf, and all you do is fly on his body and hit his weak spots with the Master Sword. Again, pretty anticlimactic, despite the increased stakes, despite the power creep of Ganondorf being probably more powerful than any other iteration of the character.
Yeah, again, it's a set piece. It's not really a final boss. Demon King Ganondorf is like the actual final boss. It's more just like a last cutscene or whatever.
Comes across as a shitty final boss.
Like, I don't really think fucking the Ganon and Ocarina of Time was that hard either. From what I remember. Again, it's been like 4 or 5 years since I played Ocarina of Time, but
boss fight, because the actual human form of Ganondorf just wasn't challenging enough. I will give Nintendo some credit that this whole final boss sequence felt very anti-speedrunner, because not only do you have to skip a huge amount of enemies on the way to the final boss, end-game enemies no less, that could kill you in 1 hit at the beginning of the game, but you also have to defeat an army of moblins, which you would be doing without the sages if you're doing it from the beginning of the game, and then you have to beat 3 forms of Ganondorf. So seeing a speedrunner beat this game from the beginning with no upgrades, no weapons, and without some kind of glitch that skips forms of the fight would actually be pretty impressive. But I don't know, this ending just wasn't really very satisfying. I don't really care about Zelda in these games. Honestly, she's the worst girl. And they even ruined a couple of the good girls from Breath of the Wild in this one.
What? I really hope he wasn't talking about Pyrrha. Because Pyrrha was kind of like a child in the first game. What? Is he? There's no way.
Girl. And they even ruined a couple of the good girls.
Why did he put it on Pyrrha of all of the characters? Of all of the characters of this game, they could have put it on. They put it on Pyrrha. What the fuck? Man. Again, Anna, I know you're probably watching this stream in advance. I am not calling him a pedophile. I'm praying to God this was just like a really shit editing mistake. But this is just funny as fuck. What the fuck? Isn't this the same guy that was talking about two children he wanted to get together in God of War Ragnarok? Yes, it was. This is the same guy.
From Breath of the Wild in this one. So it's really just down to Pora or Riju as the waifus. And
Okay, he wasn't talking about Pyrrha. It was just an editing mistake. That was still really funny. That was still really fucking funny.
Of course, they don't really seem to show romantic interest in Link. So yeah, I don't really know where I'm going with this. The point is, I wasted another 20 plus hours on this game, and my opinion is virtually unchanged since I started recording this review. Now, because I feel bad that I spent so much time shitting on this game, despite the fact I think it's pretty good, I'll at least name a few highlights from my playthrough to sort of even this out. Like I said before, the overworld map feels a lot more filled out than Breath of the Wild. There were a lot of little highlights of my exploration, like revisiting the Great Plateau and fixing one of the Bargainer statues. Even though it was a little annoying to build contraptions to bring the eyeballs back to it, that was still a cool quest. I hesitate to call this a highlight, but I find it very interesting that Zelda stole Link's house in Hateno Village. I don't know, it's just kind of funny, and it does serve a purpose. You discover how to get the Champion's Tunic in this one. Then there's getting into the Lost Woods from the underground. That was actually a pretty cool idea to subvert your expectations if you played Breath of the Wild, and it was just a good use of the underground map for once. And you also find out through that quest that the Master Sword is stuck in the Light Dragon's head, which, again, if you're paying attention to the memories, you know is Zelda. And instead of requiring heart containers to get the Master Sword, it now requires stamina, actually giving you a reason to upgrade stamina in this sequel. Another cool moment was killing your first Gliok. These are the three-headed demon dragons that are across the map, each a different element. Unlike the Lynels, where it seems like more of a test of memorizing the boss patterns, the Glioks are more like a test of how many arrows do you have and how much are you going to abuse, slowing down time with said arrows. So not exactly the same type of satisfying challenge, but still, facing a dragon with a super strong elemental attack was cool and fun. Definitely one of the better new enemy types. Another exploration area I really enjoyed was the maze that was in Breath of the Wild, which had super high walls that you could actually climb to the top of. Well, in Tears of the Kingdom, using Ascend, you can just fly straight through the ceiling, which of course Nintendo thought of. So even if you manage to climb to the very top of the center of the maze, turns out there's a second maze, a sky maze, where you have to activate 4 terminals. And then once you activate those terminals, you free fall and go into an abyss part of the maze where you fight a mini-boss, and then you're rewarded with Ganondorf's armor from Ocarina of Time. And probably the final interesting optional quest was the Skyward Sword-themed one, where you have to fix the giant goddess statue by going to 3 altars that represent the Triforce, offering a piece of the 3 elemental dragons, and then you're rewarded at the end with the Skyward Sword
I never did any of this
fee, right? Which eventually becomes the Master Sword. Now, as I implied earlier, I have no idea how the hell this is supposed to fit into the Zelda timeline, especially since Skyward Sword is implied to be the real founding of Hyrule, but this game retcons it by having Rauru be the founder of Hyrule, and Demise...
Yeah, the Zelda timeline has always been, like, one of the dumbest fucking things in the gaming industry. I don't know how you were expecting them to fix it here.
For Ganondorf, so is this implying that Everyone from Skyward Sword died off without founding Hyrule. I don't know. I don't really care about the Zelda timeline that much, but still, was a kind of cool quest, good reward, even though the Sky Sword is basically just a normal reskinned sword. It's not special like the Master Sword in any way. You can even just fuse any monster part with it, which is kind of stupid, but I don't know. I like throwbacks to the other Zelda games. Even though I'm not a massive Zelda fan, I have finished a few of the other games, so I'll take the references I can get here. Now, as for the more minor issues with the game, one of the big ones for me personally is the soundtrack. I thought the exact same thing of Breath of the Wild, but it's still another minimalist, ambient soundtrack, with the only notable tracks being remixed ones from older games in the series. Another minor issue is the voice acting, which is just as bad as Breath of the Wild. I think that's something we can all agree on. A common complaint I've heard about lack of meaningful side quests. I don't completely agree with that, but I think it's half true. Half the side quests are significant, worth your time, and the other half are not. I guess the biggest complaint I have with them is they're maybe a little too simplistic, as in you go here and find this thing. That's pretty much all of the side quests.
The voice acting is, the voice, this is like some of the worst I don't know why they put voice acting in these games.
Bring up the performance issues. As we all know by now, the Switch is an underpowered piece of crap. It's a handheld masquerading as a console. This game struggles to hit 30 frames at pretty much any time. If you're traveling the open world, it might as well be hovering around like the mid-20s or something. It's certainly not consistent on any level. Even combat against just one or two enemies will sometimes dip below 30. The only reason I qualify this as a minor issue is because if you decide to emulate the game legally or not, then you could probably actually get it to run at 60 frames with a powerful PC. And I think that pretty much covers it. So in conclusion, should you buy Tears of the Kingdom? Not at full price. Yes, I know some of you are going to say, but it has like 100 hours of content, dude. For me, that's totally worth $70. That is a mid-wit take, and it has always been a mid-wit Zoomer take specifically. I will take a 10-hour masterpiece that has replayability over a 60-hour bloated Ubisoft sequel any day. I feel like people have no respect for the quality of their time. I don't care if something takes me 100 hours to do if it's not fun. And look, Tears of the Kingdom is a fun game, but it's also highly derivative. I'll say it one last time, it's Breath of the Wild 1.5. The main improvement to the Breath of the Wild formula is increasing the number of goofy ways to interact with the world. Between the crazy contraptions and fusing weapons together, it seems like Nintendo wanted to minimize repetition in this game as much as possible. The main problem with that is that most gamers, from the most casual player to the most hardcore speedrunners and challenge run types, are going to employ some level of dominant strategy. Like I explained earlier, people are going to migrate to the most efficient way of playing a game as possible, especially if the game is long, and this is long as fuck. Yes, there's a minority of players who love messing with sandboxes in video games. The types will waste 100 hours fucking around in GTA or setting up complex redstone machines in Minecraft. And I don't have a single problem with the actual building mechanics. They're just not for me personally. They take too much time. They don't really provide any real advantage over playing the game normally, at least not.
If the frame rate is bad, I'm just gonna emulate it probably. Yeah, no, I get that. No, see, the whole thing with the frame rate, that I don't really take it as that much of an issue with like the game itself, is because it's a fault of Nintendo for refusing to update their hardware. Like, the game would be running at like 60 FPS and Nintendo updated their hardware, but since they're so ass backward, then like it can't do that. Like, it is physically impossible for this game to be able to run at 60 FPS on Switch. So
something that you can do very quickly or without a sufficient cost of Zonai, right? For me, the moment a chat member told me about the flying Segway, the verticality of this game was basically dead to me. Half the fun of Breath of the Wild was traversing the world, and now I had a cheat code. The main problem with this game is that despite being a sequel, it doesn't feel like one. It only fixes one major problem from Breath of the Wild, and that was the lack of enemy variety. All of the complaints about weapon durability, the shrines being repetitive, the map feeling empty, the lack of meaningful side quests, the dungeons not being real dungeons, the bad voice acting, the boring soundtrack, and probably even more problems that I'm not thinking of, were not addressed. It actually in some ways is lazier than a Ubisoft sequel, because at least Far Cry 4, 5, 6, all the Assassin's Creeds, they take place in different locations, different landscapes, all that stuff is new. This is the same...
but those locations aren't interesting to explore at all. Like, I would rather have a map that's, like, the same map from the previous game, but, like, really fucking interesting to explore, than anything like fucking the Far Cry maps where everything's, like, marked down for you and shit.
Fucking map from Breath of the Wild. I can't say that enough. It doesn't matter if you change everything that's on the map. Imagine if Bethesda makes Elder Scrolls 6 and it's in Skyrim again. I don't care if it has all new...
I don't care. If fucking Elder Scrolls 6 has, like, good shit that makes it interesting, I don't fucking care.
Quests, even if cities were moved around, it would still have that deja vu feeling that you can't shake off while playing this. Even if you quote-unquote debunk half or even 2/3 of my complaints in this video, it still would not be a 10 out of 10. Even if all of my complaints were invalid, I would argue it's still not a 10 out of 10 just because it's in the same fucking map as Breath of the Wild. And I can't believe anybody is still dumb enough to post Metacritic scores at this point. We've all known that game reviewers can't be trusted. They're effectively paid off, even if they're not literally given money for the reviews. Now, all of that negativity being said, it is still a fun game for all of the same reasons that Breath of the Wild was a fun game. The reward of exploration, a map that actually feels different in every region, different biomes, different difficulties of traversal, usually being the weather or the difficulty of flying through the sky in some way, though as I said, the segue...
Sup fuckers, I'm back from my shower. That's cool. How is the shower?
Nullifies the verticality issues. And the combat itself is fun. It's fun to fuck around. And personally, I actually do like the gimmick dungeons. I like the sky map. I think that's a really cool idea. I wish there was more of that stuff. So ultimately, it feels like reviewing this game is almost a waste of time. If you like Breath of the Wild, you'll like this one. If you didn't like Breath of the Wild that much and thought it was overrated, this is just more the same. But I definitely see the appeal of this. It doesn't quite do it for me. There's still way too much repetitive, pointless content, bunch of side quests without any meaningful motivation to them. They're glorified fetch quests. I don't care about any of the quest givers. I don't care about the actual objective itself. I just want the loot. And even though I think the loot actually was significantly improved in this, just because of all the new armor sets, the weapons still ruin that quite a bit. The fact that all your shit can break makes you not want to actually use anything good, and so you waste all your weaker weapons first, which just draws out the kind of repetitive combat even longer. And you see what I mean about this game. Every time I want to compliment it, I just go down a rabbit hole of these various issues. But regardless, I understand its appeal as a chill game to play. This is a game you play when you just want to play something relaxing. You want to explore a world that has over 100 hours of content, kind of like a Bethesda game, but without any of the real interactivity. But it has the unique angle that Breath of the Wild had with all these physics interactions, your various puzzle-solving abilities. The shrines legitimately are fun. I'm one of the people who will defend the shrines to a point, because most of them actually feel pretty well designed, and after a certain point, you know you don't need to do any more. I did probably 20 more than I ever had to do, and that's because I kind of like doing them. So I don't really care if you love the game. I enjoy the game personally. I think it wore out its welcome after a certain point, but I absolutely get the appeal.
If it wears out its welcome, then finish it. Like, no, people have beaten this game in like 30 hours. It is not that long.
I just don't think it is a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination. I think the global standard for video games has significantly decreased over the past 5 or 6 years, and now basically any good game is now a masterpiece. That's all it takes.
Oh, so he dislikes Tears of the Kingdom because it's too similar to Breath of the Wild, doesn't he? But he doesn't. But didn't he dislike Doom Eternal because it was too different from 26? Yeah, no. I don't remember what he said about Doom Eternal because honest to God, it was so long ago. But I think that was like somewhere around it.
Takes to be considered one of the greatest games ever made is to just be good or to just have over 100 hours of content, as somehow quantity is now more important than quality. Now normally I would end the video here, but I actually have to talk about the state of the channel for a moment. If you tune into the streams, you already know my channel has been shadow banned for probably close to 6 months at this point.
Oh no,
And so the
I
channel
don't care. Okay. What's the next one he made? This. It's only 20 minutes long.
So, Twitter discovered my Tears of the Kingdom review, and
Which
it's safe
people
to
should
say
have.
they're not
Okay.
happy about it. Despite only gaining about 10,000 video views over the past couple days, I've gained nearly 3,000 more dislikes. I wish I'd taken a screenshot of what it looked like upon release, but the like-dislike ratio was something like 82 to 84%, and now it's down to 55. And you might be wondering, well, what was the thing they took such an issue with? Well, if you watched more than 20 minutes of the video, I think you could probably guess. They didn't like my self-labeled schizo tangent. I wish it was just tendies being mad about me shitting on their new favorite game. No, it's people who clearly don't even play video games complaining about politics. And you know, normally I wouldn't think that this is really worthy of a response video, but because these mentally ill people have taken it to the point where they're mass upvoting each other's comments and making all sorts of weird passive-aggressive responses that were not well thought out, to put it lightly, I thought, let's read out a few of them and I'll just respond to them as calmly as I can. It all began when I was browsing my favorite website and noticed that someone had attached a Twitter post reacting to my video thumbnail and title, I guess, and later someone else on Twitter posted the schizo tangent specific.
It's crazy people can consume media and be unable to think about anything other than how many. Exactly. Thank you. Oh my God. Probably the most pathetic collection of criticisms I've ever seen about the Legend of Zelda. Exactly. Like, she's brown. Oh no. It's being infiltrated by woke people. How terrible. Breath of the Wild had brown people in it too. The fuck? Wasn't Zelda's dad like the same skin color she was too in Breath of the Wild? Yeah. He's as dark as she is. So it makes. Oh my God. This is so bad.
And as you can imagine, Twitter was not happy with me pointing out that Nintendo has further diversified the Hyrule landscape. It wasn't enough to have the Gerudo, the Rito, the Gorons, the Zora, and now the Zonai. No, on top of all...
They're, like, Hylians are essentially people. They're gonna have, like, different types of fucking... They're gonna...
that, half the Hylians is some shade of brown, despite Hyrule itself basically being one giant island landscape, which should have people look relatively similar to one another, especially when you have the Gerudo as specifically the brown people. It stands out that much more when the Hylians are every shade of the rainbow. Twitter also didn't like me pointing out how Rauru looks vaguely similar to Baphomet, which, like I say in the original video, could very likely just be the result of Japan inserting subtle Christian symbolism into their games, which they used to do a lot. Xenogears is one of my favorite JRPGs, and it is obviously heavily influenced by Christianity. But of course, I also offer an alternative possibility. Or again, if you want to take the schizo angle, this is a result of a certain cult organization full of quote-unquote elites that are subtly inserting their propaganda into video games. No, I wasn't being sarcastic. There's a reason I labeled it a schizo tangent. I realized how out there some of the views I shared there were, but I was throwing that little nugget in there for the stream audience. We like to get pretty schizo in there. The chat loves that shit. But like I alluded to with the gay marriage allegory, I don't actually believe that Rauru is supposed to be symbolic of Baphomet. But considering we live in Clown World, I'm not going to completely rule out the possibility. We live in a time where there are unironic Satanists. Not to mention, have you actually looked at a pride parade anytime in the last few years, or one of these drag queen story hours? They're pretty fucking satanic, let's be honest. So knowing that BlackRock and ESG exist for a fact, yet no doubt some Twitter idiots would say it's a conspiracy theory, it certainly is not too outlandish to say that a company could receive compensation for promoting certain things that those people want promoted. Now, obviously I have no proof that Free or any other groups I probably am not even allowed to say on YouTube are part of BlackRock. I can't prove that to you in any way, but I really don't see any harm in pointing it out. And really, that's why I don't feel bad about saying any outlandish things, because just the fact that I'm being attacked for noticing things, not even suggesting any actions, at no point did I advocate for censorship of a Nintendo game, that really justifies my beliefs. And the funny thing is, I'm not even religious. I've said this a few times already. I'm agnostic. I have been since I was like 12 years old. But I gotta say, these last few years, seeing the world fall apart in real time, and seeing how dumb people were with the reaction to COVID, I certainly have been swayed a certain direction. I won't say I follow any book, any creed, but it looks like Christians are being proven right with each passing day. And finally, Twitter was also angry that I made a "we was Kangs" joke about the Queen of Hyrule, because it's an easy joke and it's funny. I don't really need to justify it in any way. And that's it. That's all the controversy is over. Apparently that makes me a racist. It also makes me anti-Semitic. Figure that one out. I never mentioned Jewish people one time. So that was a pretty long intro to just explain the drama. Let's now read some of the comments. So after I'd found out about the controversy, of course I clicked on my own video to just see if these people started making suspicious comments. And what do I find right at the top? In just a couple hours, it had 150 likes, despite the video gaining no noticeable boost in views that it would from the algorithm. And look, I know some of you people are going to say this in itself is schizo shit, but when you've been making videos for 3 years, you tend to notice trends. And my videos usually don't get a whole lot of hate until they get into the YouTube algorithm. And like I told you at the end of the last video, I've been shadow banned for a while, so forgive me if I don't believe this is organic. This had me laughing so hard, borrowing DNA from the Highlands. I legitimately don't understand what you're saying. Is you're implying that there's a reverse Yakub that invented the Gerudo people? And like the fact about this game being satanic/grooming kids. God, you guys remind me of my grandparents who called Pokemon and Harry Potter tools of the devil. Keep up the great work, genuinely entertaining schizo post. Now, if you're dumb or only read the first half, you might think this is genuinely someone entertained by my video, because someone honestly tried to tell me that this comment was a compliment. Well, just taking one look at the replies will tell you that's obviously not the case, but do you really not think this is subtly, passive-aggressively mocking me about the "you remind me of my grandparents who called Pokemon and Harry Potter tools of the devil"? He's alluding to the satanic panic, as I said in my response, which I'll read here. Very organic comment, and 150 likes in a few hours on a video that didn't spike in views. Did you come from Twitter or Discord, lol? No, I was implying that Gerudo aren't Hylian/human, seeing as they only produce Gerudo when they mate with Hylians, which you would know if you actually played the games. As for your other points, you probably support leftist censorship, so your satanic panic illusion falls on deaf ears. I don't support censorship on any level from either side, but I will call out things I notice. And you can see what I mean by this comment when I said these people don't even play video games. I think pretty much everyone knows that the Gerudo produce more Gerudo when they mate, and they're all female, except once in 100 years they produce one male for the species. So they have to go out into the world and find Hylians and mate with them. They literally tell you this in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom if you just talk to any of the wandering Gerudo NPCs. And like I said, I legitimately don't support censorship. I am not the Zoomer version of Jack Thompson who wants to make leftist propaganda illegal or something. No, I want it to die out naturally by nobody buying the products. The problem is, certain shadowy groups of people have amassed so much money that they can fund games that sell 0 copies. Things like the Epic Game Store, paying developers millions of dollars to have exclusivity, and then the game bombs on their storefront because nobody likes it. And of course, I have to mention it again, BlackRock and ESG. Companies literally have a social credit score that if they insert propaganda into their products, they get money. This is a fact, people. This is not something I made up. There's a reason so many channels have talked about it now. It's basically common knowledge for anybody who's not living with their head buried in the sand, but these are Twitter degenerates we're talking about here. And so what was the reply to my fairly measured response?
I love saying this. Sam, honestly. I'm curious, how does he know he's shadow banned? Because he doesn't get the views he wants.
At least for me, anyway. Calm down, you unwhipped cream. Okay. With 426 likes at the time of me recording this. Now I realize that YouTube shadow bans any real insults at this point, so this is why modern discourse on the internet has gotten so pathetic and kind of boring in general, because you're not allowed to actually insult people anymore. I actually wrote a response to a few of these comments that was actually too spicy even for me posting on my own channel, apparently, because YouTube deleted it. And no, I'm not going to tell you what it is because it clearly violates YouTube's terms of service, but I was pretty annoyed, I'm not going to lie. And what's the next one? Man, go back to 2016. The amount of times I've heard a variation of this comment over the last few years.
Why would he want to go to 2016? 2016 was when this shit started. Like, the whole woke idea, like, showed up. It would probably be like 2014, 2015. I don't fucking know.
I think right-wing people just disappeared after the 2020 election or something. This has never made any sense to me. This is what happens when you spend all day in an echo chamber. You seem to think that your delusional, extremist, communist Discord server is a reflection of real life. These people are the perfect cattle because they believe everything that government and corporations tell them. They're probably vaxxed and triple boosted and wearing masks.
Wasn't he saying, like, what the government tells you is correct in his fucking, Last of Us video, though?
Masks in their car to this day. Or if they're one of the few that's actually wizened up, they're not going to admit that they were doing something stupid before because that would mean they were wrong, and as we know, they're never wrong. So seriously, I actually want an answer from these people to this question in case any of you are still so ass-blasted by my opinions that you decide to brigade this video as well. Why do you think right-wing people just left the planet? Do you really think that all normies are now radical socialists or some shit? Wouldn't there be rioting every day in the streets in every city? At every moment, buildings would be burning as they're trying to take down the corporations, except Disney, except Nintendo, except any corporation that agrees with my politics, which just means they put an LGBT flag on their Twitter. So, in reality, nothing would be burning because these people have no fucking principles. They don't even believe in an ideology. There's a reason why slacktivism used to be a popular term, because all these people do is bitch and moan on the internet day in and day out, and then they have the nerve to tell me that I'm constantly miserable. You saw an opinion you didn't like, so you dislike bombed my video, and I'm the miserable one? I actually said Tears of the Kingdom was a good game, which you would know if you actually watched the video, which is the thing that tears me up about all these. You're not going to see a single actual criticism of any of my opinions about the gameplay or the world design because none of them actually watched the video. It's funny to me that YouTube disabled dislikes, but they made no efforts to try and curb astroturfing like this. The YouTube algorithm can obviously detect when 3,000 dislikes mysteriously appear on a video over a few days with a disproportionately low amount of new views on the video.
Who cares? People dislike bomb videos all the fucking time. Even my videos have gotten, like, dislike bombed by his audience and shit. And it's like, I don't fucking care. It's a video. It is not that big of a deal. Like, obviously people... Synthetic Man has, like, what, 102,000 subscribers? I'm going up against a pretty big YouTuber? Like, no shit. A lot of his audience is gonna come to my video and not like my opinions on his video? I don't really fucking care.
Can track when someone clicks on a video from a different website, but
my X-Men video got dislike bombed too, and I still stand by. Yeah, no, exactly. Like,
to drudge up an old controversy, I think we both know the only reason that they hid the dislikes was because people would dislike bomb advertisements from major corporations or Joe Biden speeches, and so of course they don't want the public to see the massive amount of backlash toward the content so that people can't organize on any level, which has always been the goal of these people. It's the same reason why they banned so many right-wing people from Twitter before Elon took over, which actually is like a whole different subject I could go into. Why the hell do you fucking maniacs still use that site? Weren't you going to use somewhere else because Elon is an alt-right billionaire troll or some shit, right? I gotta say, I have been tempted to actually start using a Twitter account just because he added that fact-check feature, which is constantly debunking the stupid shit you people post all the time. Let's just blast through some more of these real quick and then I'll respond afterward. You called me out on my dumbass takes. You must be a liberal from Twitter and like censorship. Dude understands free speech but not the concept that he's also allowed to be criticized. Lamau. You literally tried to imply that the game is grooming kids. Also, I hope none of you genuinely try to argue in good faith with someone whose clear fetishes are in the thumbnail and is attempting to point out supposed satanic grooming in a Zelda game. In Minecraft, the diamonds is some of the strongest armor in the game. Was De Beers secretly placing propaganda in it? Was Notch actually a space Trotskyite?
Exactly.
There is no devil. Grow up. Now, I just want to remind you, even if you think one or two of these are good digs, these are the type of people that think it is completely normal and rational to chop your dick off and wear a dress. And now I realize this video is probably going to be demonetized, but I had to get that one in there. Seriously though, with the radical change in gender ideology and the slow normalization of pedophilia, and I don't care if you think that's schizo, that's apparent to anybody who's paying attention, but you keep lying to yourself about
no, she's fucking weird. No shit.
That. Do you want to know the amount of times I've seen some random Twitter user advocate for the banning of Lolly, and then it turns out they're an actual pedophile who's been arrested or was arrested after that post? It's not a fucking coincidence, dude. These people are fucked in the head. I don't even give a shit about Lolly. I think it's just drawings. People
oh my god. He He said it! He fucking said, I don't give a shit about blood. It's just drama. Yeah, it's children. And the people jerking off to it are fucking weird. Because these are children. They might not actually be attacking children, but it's still children. Oh my god. You know what? He hasn't said he jerks off to Lolly yet, so I still don't think we can call him a pedophile, but that's still fucking weird.
Seem to think I was a pedo for my take on Atreus and Angraboda, even though they're both horny teenagers and probably would want to plow each other. I'm sorry if the truth hurts your feelings because you were a loser in high school, a shut-in who never saw any of this shit. Well, despite what you might think of me, I did know multiple people who had sex in middle school and high school, and they weren't lying, dude. I'm going to try not to get too personal into story time here, but I went to a majority black middle school, and there was a pregnant 14-year-old girl when I went. Now, am I saying that's okay? No, of course it's not. It's kind of fucked up. But when you're trying to set up two characters as a future husband and wife, they should at least have a tiny bit of chemistry, just some innocent teenage love. In the fucking 80s, there were movies all the time about kids falling in love with girls, and none of you guys seem to think that was pedo shit. Or maybe you never watched the movies. I don't fucking
Well, then why were you getting mad about the fucking the Ellie Riley thing? Like, what the fuck?
Oh, but what I do know is none of these Twitter, Reddit, Discord types batted an eye when it turned out that monkeypox was spread through sexual intercourse, and all of a sudden, these kids start getting it somehow, especially ones that had two dads.
What? What the fuck? Oh my god.
That's interesting. All they ever do is deflect. They never will acknowledge if their side does something horrific. I'm not sure if I could be bothered to dig up one of these comments, but I did see a few that also implied that I shouldn't have put any of the schizo tangent in the video at all. Well, here's the thing. It's my channel. It's my video.
Yeah, that's
I don't
fair.
owe you anything. I can make whatever I want, and there's nothing you can do to stop me.
But
So,
we still have a right to make fun of you for jumping to these dumbass conclusions.
yeah, I don't really care if you think that, but if you really want a real explanation, the reason I put things like that in the videos is to make them entertaining, because, let's be honest, reviewing video games isn't really that interesting, especially when I don't really get review codes, so my videos don't serve the usual purpose, which is to shill the game to you so you'll buy it. Let's be honest, that's what 95% of reviewers on this platform are doing. But since I don't have that opportunity, and I'm not paid off in any way, I do want to at least make the videos funny to watch. If that initial comment that I pinned was being completely genuine about being entertained about the schizo tangent and wasn't obviously being passive-aggressive, I would have been completely fine with it. I'm glad people are entertained by the schizo tangents. In fact, there was a bunch of other comments that literally said that, so if you're pretending, oh, Synthetic Man just can't take criticism, that wasn't even a criticism, it was just a backhanded insult, and I don't know why you guys are pretending to be autistic when obviously you all came from the same few websites to shit on my video. At a certain level, there's almost no reason to even address any more comments, because none of them critiqued my video in any way. A lot of these obsessed losers even went to my community post, where I was just pointing out, yeah, somebody linked my video on Twitter, and there's some delusional takes. I just don't understand what the point of this is. You're not convincing anybody. You're just talking past all my audience. I don't think any of these people understand the nature of debate. The whole point of it is to convince a third neutral party to your side. These are a bunch of lunatics all talking to each other. The type of people who will call you an incel when they themselves have never had sex. This is why we need to bring back asylums, unironically, and I don't care if these people are abused because they deserve it. You're really telling me these people should have the right to vote. The type of people who are quite literally not a part of society. They probably don't even pay taxes. Not that I think anybody should at this point with our traitorous government, but these are the type of people who are getting paid disabilities they don't even fucking have, like autism. I guarantee they're not even autistic. And gender dysphoria sure as hell shouldn't be getting any money. The type of people who shout trans rights at the top of their lungs and then can't even tell you what the fuck that means. You have all the same rights I do. But no, they think free surgery is a right. Chopping your dick off is something that the taxpayer should take the burden of. Are you fucking kidding me, dude? And to make a year-old reference, they can't even define what a woman is. A woman is anyone who says they're a woman. They don't even know what a definition is, because all their words have multiple definitions. Doublespeak, right? Rules for thee and not for me. I just can't get over the fact that these people never argue in good faith. Like the person pointing out that I put my fetish in the thumbnail. I purposely made that thumbnail because it was funny, and I know Nintendo fans and cuckoldry go together like peanut butter and jelly. It was obviously clickbait to catch people's attention. I think everyone understood that. It is a complete waste of time to argue with these people because they won't even address any of your points. Because half these people didn't even fucking play the game. This is literally just about politics. That's it. I don't think I need to tell you something that a million other political channels have already told you, whether it's left or right, that the American people has become completely and utterly obsessed with politics 24/7, including me. I will admit that I think about this shit way too fucking much, especially when it doesn't actually affect my day-to-day life. I mean, yes, I am a YouTuber, so it actually affects me more than it affects most people, let's be honest. But even so, I definitely obsess over it too much. But when I see this shit, it just gets fucking sad after a certain point. I don't feel bad for them because, like I said, they've made their bed, now they gotta lie in it, right? They don't even like our current president, but because they have to vote blue no matter who, they'll defend their ideology to their death anyway. And why is that? Because they're all fucking depressed. For as much as they'll tell you to seek therapy, none of them are happy. The men are virgins, and the women have been single for years.
Wait, what was somebody saying? I wasn't even reading chat. You're gonna, oh, he was just putting I can't say that because I don't want to get the stream to get taken down because the last time I was saying it a bunch, but he was saying that word. Okay, I don't really care.
Especially all the ones over 30. They're gonna die drowning in cat piss, dude. On some level, that is sad. As much as I like to be an edgelord, and I will dehumanize my opponents as much as they do, because you might as well fight fire with fire, right? On some level, I am legitimately more empathetic than they are.
I don't know why people just, like, say that word and, like, expect me to get offended from it. Like, I let my friends say that word all the fucking time. I do not care. It is a fucking word. Like...
I think about it, it is just fucking tragic. I'm not happy that these people are like this. I don't want people to be pathetic and weak. I want people to be strong, to fight off the demons, to go into the schizo angle again. But again, since I'm not actually religious, I mean more metaphorical demons, certain disproportionately powerful groups of people, which ironically that belief aligns perfectly with the leftists, but since they have no principles, they don't ever actually fight anything, except for them rightoids. Those heckin' right-wingers just want to kill all the trans people. That's what they actually believe. See, I'm not entirely sure why I even made this video. I wouldn't be shocked if I get a strike in my channel or worse for this, but I just had to air out some of my grievances and worst case scenario.
This wasn't that bad, honestly. Aside from the whole lolly thing, I don't think this was that bad.
Patreon, because I do want people to see this, so maybe they do understand my actual beliefs a little bit more. I'm not going to pull a Sam Hyde and pretend that it's all comedy or something when most of his viewers know that he is definitely more of a radical right-wing guy, even if he does ham up some of his beliefs for comedy's sake. You can just watch some of his older advice videos and you'll get a good idea of what he really thinks. No, me, I'm way too honest.
The only reason I don't say certain words is because YouTube... I would be saying the word right now if I could. It's just I don't want to get, like, another strike on my channel because last year... when I was saying that word a crap ton, I got like a strike and the stream got taken down. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to risk it right now.
I've never been a good liar. I will ham up certain shit, but even when I do, I couldn't help but label it a schizo tangent because I have self-awareness. Again, unlike the leftists who brigaded the video. It is not worth their time in any way to debate them. They are thoroughly demoralized, as Yuri Bezmenov would say.
You're stuck with them, you can't go to... I don't care.
So they might as well just be bug people or NPCs or some kind of slug subhuman thing, really not worth engaging with on any level. I look forward to reading some of their comments on this video. See you next time, guys.
Okay. Yeah, no. Honestly, that wasn't that bad. Aside from the whole lolly thing, where it's just... where he said it was just drawings. I don't know. I don't think it's that bad. Okay, now we have to look at Ann Wifey's response to me. Okay.
Hey everyone. So Kim Joshin responded to my video about me, saying that Kim is trying to imply that Synthetic Man is a child lover, which I still get the impression from the original video, but maybe there were a few things I overlooked or didn't understand. So I'm not gonna make this intro long, I'm just gonna get straight into it because let's just do this. So after he talks about the drama that happened between us, if you even want to call it drama really, he talks about
okay, that's another thing though. If I was trying to imply that Synthetic Man was a pedophile, why would I outright say in the next video I make talking about him that I don't think he's a pedophile? I specifically said that he is not a pedophile. Even after that whole, like, lolly shit, I still don't think there's enough evidence to, like, prove that he's objectively a pedophile, unless, like, he outright admits to, like, jerking off to lolly and shit. So, I don't know.
What I'm saying is just pulling shit out of my ass. So let's see what Kim's got for us today. Let's see if he's right or not. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I was kinda hoping on any other video winning in that poll other than the synthetic man one, because I really don't want to do this. I mean, I do, but at the same time I don't, because this is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard Kim Joshin call synthetic man. Yeah, I know that in the title or whatever, he didn't specifically call synthetic man the T-word. He's hinting at it and he's putting that seed in people's brains.
That's right, everyone. I'm putting my seed in your brains. I'm whipping out my cock and jacking off into a funnel connected to your head that goes through your skull and into your brains. But in all seriousness, no, I was not hinting at it. Again, I don't know how you can be that fucking brain dead to think that.
Well, the fact that people on the internet have gotten called pedophiles for less, I would be kind of worried that you're trying to imply something here. Now, I don't really believe you were trying to call him a pedophile, although it's kind of weird that you would care about.
You just said you think I was implying that he was a pedophile. What the fuck? Oh my god. Jesus Christ.
What he said at all. If it's not what you think, why even make that short of that video or whatever? But you still need to be careful about.
I made the short to promote like the main video. That's why I make shorts, to like promote the main channel. That's the only reason I make shorts.
What you say on the internet. There are plenty of people on the internet who've got called pedophiles because, well, they've said something vaguely weird to most people. Just like a yandere dev, or an example you bring up, Wings of Redemption.
You dumb bitch, you are pulling
Wait,
me.
what? Sorry. Shit.
Just like a yandere dev, or an example video or whatever. But you still need to be careful about what you say on the internet. There are plenty of people on the internet who've got called pedophiles because, well, they've said something vaguely weird to most people. Just like a yandere dev.
Yeah, and Synthetic Man should have been careful about what he was saying on the internet too, about these random two kids wanting to get together. The fuck?
Or an example you bring up, Wings of Redemption.
You dumb bitch, you are pulling this shit out of your ass.
And again, I can't even control my audience with how they interpret my shit. Like, what? Like, if someone gets the implication that like I don't fucking know what a good example is. What's some stupid shit that I've said? I need to really think. I guess we could just use this situation that we're talking about right now. Like, again, if someone thinks like Synthetic Man is a pedophile, if someone thinks Synthetic Man is a pedophile because I made this joke, that's not my problem. I'm sorry. Like, if someone's that fucking stupid that they think he's a pedophile because of that, I don't know what to tell them. I can't control people.
Also, what else do you call what he's trying to do here?
Me making fun of him for saying stupid shit? What the fuck else could it be?
He's trying to call Synthetic Man the P-word, and I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to accept that. So this is going to be a response to Kim Joshin's stupid short trying to call Synthetic Man a child lover. Oh boy, this is going to be fun.
For all the people.
So I'm going to ignore that you called me a bitch, which is not an argument, but I just missed.
I know, it was just funny. Like, that's what I do with everybody. I call them, like, stupid-ass names. Like, what I call Synthetic Man the incel redneck or whatever. I call Nier. I can't say that word again because I'm gonna get demonetized. But I mean, I'm not gonna get demonetized. I'm gonna get the stream taken down. So yeah, I'm not risking that shit.
Say you have to be careful about what you say on the internet, Kim. Like, this entire video, you're saying how creepy and weird what he said, and not to mention that there's a lot of people out there who don't even like Synthetic Man. They might try to say shit that's not true about him to get.
How is that my problem? What? Why do I have to worry about this, like, anti-Synthetic Man cult or whatever? Like, what?
Or something like that. I just want you to know that you need to be careful.
People who told me wanting Atreus and Ingrid.
Why do I have to watch out for this anti-Synthetic Man cult? The fuck? So they might see my video and see it's like, oh, he's a pedophile because of this. Okay, how is that my problem? I'm not gonna fucking watch out for him. He's like, what? I shouldn't have to state that he's not a pedophile because I think that's a given unless, like, I outright say Synthetic Man is a pedophile. Like, what?
To show any kind of romantic interest in each other is pedophilia. You guys sure do love your.
Like, no, if someone was a pedophile, like, I wouldn't imply that they were a pedophile. I would say this person is a pedophile. Like, what? How do you just imply someone's a pedophile? The fuck?
underage lesbian love stories.
Okay, so before I even go into this, I just want to say Synthetic Man is completely right in every regard here, and the fact that anybody can argue this is amazing to me. Like, guys, really? I mean, like, Kim doesn't even really respond to that.
I mean, I do. It was a 1 minute.
Did he? Is that to me? Oh, wait,
Like,
no, that
guys,
was
really?
from
I
the
mean,
video. I'm
like,
stupid.
Kim doesn't even really respond to that.
I mean, I do. It was a 1 minute clip out of like a 69-minute video. Nice. And I even had to cut out like half of my response to that clip I had of him, because with shorts you have to fit everything down into a minute, which is why I made the short talking specifically about his God of War take. But whatever. I'll say the same thing here. When Left Behind first came out and it wasn't revealed that Ellie was a lesbian yet, nobody was demanding for her to have romantic feelings for Riley when the DLC trailers were coming out before it launched. If they were, yeah, that would be fucking creepy, because why are you expecting these 14, 15-year-old kids to be into each other?
Well, the fact that I wasn't telling you that you didn't respond to the actual video, the fact that I was saying that you didn't respond to the actual thing I was saying, yes,
What?
it's true that when it happened.
Because why are you expecting these 14, 15-year-old kids to be into each other?
Well, the fact that I wasn't telling you that you didn't respond to the actual video, the fact that I was saying that you didn't respond to the actual thing I was saying, yes, it's true that when it happens between the same sex, nobody really cares. However, when Synthetic Man even mentions that the fact that Ingrid and Atreus should have a thing together, everybody's quick to call him a pedophile.
No, we're not quick to call him a pedophile. We're quick to call that fucking weird. Because, again, why do you care? Like, okay. Riley and Ellie in The Last of Us serves a purpose to the story. So I think it should still be in the game. Because it builds trauma for Ellie. It tells like, the people who played the game, like, okay, this is the character's backstory, this is how she got bitten. And it's like a neat little side story to the game. Angrboda and Atreus being in love doesn't help God of War Ragnarok's story at all. It doesn't focus on anything. So, this is not the same situation.
You did not respond to that. What is your response to people who say that it's okay for the same sex to have, you know, relationships when they're young kids, but not with the other side?
Obviously, that's fucking stupid. Like, where did you ever get the implication that I thought, okay, yeah, it's okay for young gay couples to be okay. It's okay for young gay couples to be in movies, but it's not okay for young straight couples. Like, no shit. No fucking shit. What is this?
Synthetic Man just implying that he wanted Angrboda and Atreus to have the thing together, but Riley and Ellie being a thing because it's already a thing is okay? Like, how does that make any sense?
And it's creepy here, with Synthetic Man bringing up how Atreus and Angrboda aren't into each other as, like, a diss on God of War Ragnarok. Like, that's fucking weird. You should not be expecting fictional children to have relationships with each other. If they actually do end up getting into relationships, cool. Like, if in the next God of War game, Atreus and Angrboda are together, alright. I don't think anybody is gonna care.
So Synthetic Man saying he wants Atreus and Angrboda to get together, that's creepy, but if they're already in a relationship, that's not? Like, how does
Yeah, because if they're in a relationship, it'll mean it was like a certain necessity for the story. Okay? Like, no. So if in the next, I honestly, God, I'll admit my fault here. I'll admit my fault here. I did kind of phrase that weirdly. So if in the next God of War game, Atreus and Angrboda are in a relationship and it serves a purpose to the story as like an allegory for the theme or whatever, or to build up like some event in the story, like, yeah, I'll be fine with that. If they're just in a relationship for being in a relationship sake, yeah, okay, that's kind of creepy. Okay? I think I'm setting it up a little more neat here, I guess. I don't know.
doesn't make any sense? Like, if a, what? Like, if a 12-year-old
Woke commie shows are trying to ride the coattails of Synthetic Man. You're gay. The Last of Us sucks. It's a dumb movie game. Oh no.
wanted to get with, like, a 14-year-old or something like that.
What was the you're gay for? The fuck?
Like that's not creepy, but if someone, like, shipped them together, then it's
Yes, I'm a communist. Give me all your shit, bitch.
creepy. What?
But with what Synthetic Man did, where he saw these two 14-year-olds and just immediately went, why aren't they together? Why don't they have sexual interest in each other? They're the last two of their species. They need to repopulate as soon as possible. These are ancient times. The age of consent doesn't exist. Like, the fuck? Is that not fucking weird to you?
I mean, I guess, but that was more of a joke in his video, and, like...
Again, that's not something, like, a 30-year-old man should be you know, he's probably not 30, but, like, 25, 26. That's not something a 25, 26-year-old man should be joking about. I don't know. With, like, kids he didn't know, which I know I saw later in the video she brings that up, which I will get to that. But, like, with kids he doesn't know, he should not be joking about that. Like, I don't know, that's fucking weird.
I mean, we're talking about ancient times here. Like, criticize all you want. That did happen in ancient times. Like, God of War is trying to go over this more realistic angle, but they're not gonna be real.
God of War is going for a realistic angle. I'm not even gonna fucking debunk that at that point. If you don't get like how that's dumb, I think that's your own problem. Again, like I said earlier.
Realistic, like, history or whatever, that's kind of weird. Again, this was more of a joke on Synthetic Man's part, which you criticize him for, which is weird because you make the exact same joke about pedophilia, but you criticize him for making a pedophile joke? Like, what?
How do I make it the exact same joke about pedophilia? Is she talking about the Nier shit? Like how Nier made the jokes about like fucking me and shit? Because again, I debunked that. I was like, okay, yeah, but like Nier and I are like friends. We're close. He knows I'm okay with jokes like that. While Synthetic Man again is making these jokes about like two random fucking kids.
Imagine if I was saying that about The Last of Us when that game came out with Ellie and Sam, and while I was playing the game,
It was an ambiguous. Yeah, exactly.
we
Like,
just started going off on a tangent of why haven't they shown affection towards each other yet? Ellie's immune. Her having children will make more immune people. It's the apocalypse. Little kids get forced into sex in this world all the time. Like, no, that's fucking weird. And what Synthetic Man was saying was weird as shit. That's all I said there. And she's trying to go off like, oh, he called him a pedophile. He's defaming Synthetic Man. No, I just called him out for saying stupid shit like I did with everything else in that video.
Let's break this down. First of all, Atreus and Agrabota were not forced to be together. There was no implication being them forced
where did I say that?
to be together. What you're saying here is a totally different situation, which you criticize me for. in your video.
No, it is not the same. I'm not saying Ellie and Sam needed to be forced to get together. I was saying that as like, I was saying it as like, fuck. I lost my train of thought. No, I was saying that as like an example of like it's okay if they were. Was that really? Did that really have a point? I guess not. But like still, it's the same thing. Like if someone was like complaining about Ellie and Sam getting together in The Last of Us because they need to repopulate or some shit. Like I don't know. Yeah, I guess I could give her this.
Video, like, that has nothing to do with anything. It's not the same situation, and it's not the same game. It has nothing to do with one another, so you can't even compare the two. Also, like I said, you didn't actually say it, but people will get the implication from this video that you're doing right now. How is that hard to understand him?
And how is that my
Like,
problem?
pedophile
Again.
because he, was saying, "Oh man, I wanted Agrabota and the Atricog to get together," but they didn't. That's stupid. And then you guys called me a pedo word because I wanted them to get together, even though it was implied in the game that they, liked each other.
What?
Shit.
Where the fuck?
Hello? Okay, I gotta go to bed, cause my dad's calling me and telling me to go the fuck to bed. So, I will talk to you. I will come back on stream in the morning to finish this shit, probably. Or whenever the fuck is the next time I stream, I don't know. Yeah, okay.